All right, in this video, what we're talking about is a key concept called perception-action coupling, which is different than if we were to say perception and action. Perception-action, if we treat it as one word, is an important distinction here, and it's something that applies to pretty much every aspect of the game, the ecological approach to coaching and coaching volleyball. You're going to hear this concept a lot, and I really want, or I hope, that it becomes a central tenet to how not only us as coaches approach or design our practice environments, but also how our players then begin to work and interact with our practice environments, within our practice environments, and how they begin to either acquire more skill or advance their level of skill. Okay, so perception action coupling, we're going to be talking primarily or using hitters as examples, but I've also pulled up a couple other plays for defense and other things to help illustrate some key points specifically about our visual perception, why it's so important that we're looking at information-rich areas, and at any rate, let's get into this. What I have here is a clip, and we're going to be looking at an outside hitter here. This is I can't remember how many years back, but it doesn't matter. This is Simone. What is Simone's last name? Simone Lee. Okay. International, former Penn State collegiate outside hitter. Very good player. Okay. And this particular clip is what you would consider like almost some ideal approach, attack, arm swing. You know, it's got a little bit of everything, right? Okay. She's got this big stride step, penultimate step that's going to help carry her forward momentum into her vertical takeoff. She's got this big, often desirable double back arm lift. So not only is she really carrying a lot of momentum through her penultimate step, but she's also going to gain a really big lift off by using her arms, her back, her shoulders, and all that good stuff. Okay, so she's gonna fly, right? And we see that there. She's got some incredible arm prep, shoulder tilt, I mean, all these things, right? Okay, very ideal, preferred, desirable attack mechanics, you name it. Okay, what I want to reiterate, however, is in our efforts to teach and develop our club players, 12 years old and younger, all the way up to 18 years of age, is we have to help them develop some good, reliable, consistent movement technique, but we cannot desire or aim to make that the only thing that we help them achieve. Okay. And the reason that's important is because there are so many more scenarios that the hitter will find themselves in where they cannot use an ideal approach, an ideal back arm swing, an ideal preferred technique. And so in those situations, they have to have the skills and abilities to adapt and deal with the situation that they're in. Okay. And that's where we get into this idea of what is called nonlinear pedagogy. Okay. What that means is essentially what athletes are going to learn and how they learn. It doesn't follow a linear progression. It's non-linear in that it jumps all over the place. Okay, so they may acquire some skill as for their approach footwork, but maybe they're not syncing and linking up their back arm lift, or what they're doing with their arms isn't quite right just yet. But then somehow they also develop just a really good hand contact on the ball. So their approach footwork is good. What their arms are doing during the approach and takeoff is a little wonky, but somehow their ball contact, their hand contact is elite. Okay, a linear idea or linear pedagogy would want, or say at least, that the athlete needs to learn everything in a linear fashion, so that in order for them to acquire skill, they have to get the approach, they have to get the right arm coordination, and then the arm prep, and then the sequence of hip, torso, shoulder rotation, elbow, lead, and then ultimately their hand contact. Nonlinear pedagogy says players will develop bits and pieces in a somewhat unorganized fashion, and it's going to be unique to that individual. Okay, so enough about nonlinear pedagogy. The perception action component here, what I want to encourage all of us coaches to play around with and appreciate is we need to provide practice and learning environments where players have the ability to learn both the preferred and stable and even ideal technique, if that's what's important, as well as the skill and ability to adapt, to modify, to problem solve, and achieve a desired outcome, even if it's not the most desirable or exact technique. So that's what these next three clips are going to help illustrate. This is from 2019. Okay, and on the other side here, what we're going to look at is a outside hitter from Japan who is coupling her movement, her approach, her arm swing, her attack to the relevant information, which is the ball, the set, the tempo, the location. Okay, and if we take a look at the hitter there, I want to point out some things that maybe are difficult to frame at the moment. Okay, so for one thing, slow to fast approach. It's a relative thing. Okay, so it's not that we're going to go slow to fast in the exact same way all of the time. Slow to fast simply means we're creating some acceleration, which would make sense in order to jump and move more quickly or rapidly. We would need to see some acceleration. Okay, so let's take a moment and focus on her approach work. Slow, fast. Okay. The other thing is, maximal jump, or what we often try to teach is contacting the ball at the highest point possible. That is also a relative thing that should be coupled to the information that's most relevant. And so for a hitter, the most relevant information is the ball. Okay, the height, the speed, the location, and timing and all that stuff. So what you're going to see here is a player who does not jump as high as she physically can, or she doesn't contact the ball as high as she's physically capable of. She contacts the ball as high as possible relative to the height and tempo and location of this particular set in this particular moment, and also relative to the task or the desired outcome. Okay, so for her movement problem here is one that hopefully will result in her getting a kill or winning a point. Okay, and that is why you don't see a hugely dynamic, explosive, violent jump. You see something that is more linked to or paired or coupled, okay, the perception action coupling. You see something that matches more the timing, tempo, location of the set, that is going to help her achieve her desired outcome goal or movement effect, which is ultimately getting a kill or getting a point. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense there. All right. The other thing that I just want to point out on this swing, and you're going to see it on all three of these, I think, or at least two of them, is look at how hard she hits the ball despite not having a maximal, explosive, violent, dynamic approach, okay, or a big run up. All right. She's still able to hit this ball lightning fast, super hard. And obviously, you know, the Netherlands team here just undiggable. Okay, so on the near side, and I think we're going to be looking at the outside here eventually. Perception action coupling. Okay, the first thing that I want to point out here is the problem solving in real time, or what we call in the research literature, we call this online prospective control, meaning our coordinated movements are happening and adapting and being executed or coordinated in real time, in direct relationship to what we're seeing in our environment, or what we're perceiving visually, auditorily, tactilely, or however you pronounce that, which is different, or a different way of a different worldview than you know, what is a more traditional approach, where you know, traditional coaching and information processing motor learning theory would say that we read and see a stimulus that gets input somewhere into our brain, where we then select an appropriate movement response, and then we initiate an output. The problem with that thinking is, in these really fast bang bang, you know, interceptive sports like volleyball, is that there's going to be a lag. Also, with the vast number of different possible scenarios and combinations and you know, different situations that a player would find themselves in, there's a storage capacity issue. Okay, imagine that, you know, these Olympians have to be taught all these different things and remember all these things. There's certainly a storage capacity problem, and also just a you know, a processing problem in my belief. Okay, so perception action coupling, prospective online control. What are we talking about? We're talking about a player's ability to directly perceive what's going on in their environment, and through that direct perception and action and interaction, they are able to discover or reveal action possibilities and capabilities, or invitations to move. We call those affordances. Okay, so here we can see she's forming her platform, and at some moment here, it is her determination that the platform, traditional platform form, is not going to cut it. Okay, so problem solves on the fly, and we get this one arm dig save, followed by a spike approach that is coupled to the information here that she picks up visually. There's also probably going to be some information that she has just knowing the timing of the situation. This ball is probably coming to me, or I have to at least be ready to attack and do my job. So look how quickly she gets her eyes around back on the ball and the setter. Okay, probably looking more towards her setter, but also her peripheral, and now probably she's taking a look at the ball to see timing. all of that visual information is what allows her to couple her approach. And what I really want to point out here is watch what she does with her coordinated arm movements. Okay, you traditionally would see players rocking or lifting their hands forward, down, back, and then up. That's often demonstrated and taught that way. Other coaches say relax the arms or point them straight down. If we really said nothing, over time, players would do things like this. Watch what she does with her arms. Right? Okay, so she just kind of hangs them back and adapts to the situation because that's what's needed in terms of achieving her outcome goal and getting her hand in position to contact the ball hard and fast on time. Okay. So again, you can see how prescribed or ideal techniques are great, but if that's all we are working towards in practice, then we really aren't helping our athlete prepare for all the other situations that aren't going to be ideal or aren't going to permit the athlete to execute perfect technique. So this is why perception action is so important. This is why skill adaptability is so important. The central theme here is we want our athletes to be able to achieve consistent outcome goals. Okay, how they solve those problems and how they achieve them can vary and change. All right. But the consistent outcome effect or result is more of what we're looking for, not necessarily how they perform the movements to achieve those desired outcomes. Okay, so this is the last one here, same thing. Okay, not a huge run up, not a huge violent approach or jump. You know, really what's happening here is, again, she's using primarily her visual perception to coordinate her timing, her movements, okay, to achieve the desired outcome goal, which is to get the kill or get the point. Okay. I'll probably just cut it there. I do have a couple more, so given that this is already going to be a 20-minute video, let's go ahead and take a look. Look how wide Brooke from Oregon gets on this attack. I mean, it's just incredible. It's you really rarely ever see this. She's getting way outside the frame. Okay. Which I don't know how relevant or useful that is, because this player here is looking all in this direction. You know, by now she's looking at the information provided by the ball. She probably could have gathered even more specific information, you know, but I think maybe she's just trying to look to her hitter as quickly as possible. So she certainly did miss the information pickup here that the ball was coming out a little bit slower to set up this rip. But again, I mean, look how different this movement pattern and movement solution is for the hitter, but it gets the desired outcome result. Okay, so a huge broad jump flying through the air. You know, I don't know how consistent this play would be for them, but it works there. Okay, and that is certainly something that I think is definitely by design. Okay, the last two videos here, we're it's perception action coupling. We're looking for players to perceive opportunities to move and act and solve problems. This is a great clip here because, you know, one, this hitter is looking at the ball, looking for the relevant information coming off this contact surface, and then quickly sees an opportunity to achieve her task. You know, the task is to score the point. It doesn't matter if it's pass, set, hit. The task is to score the point. And here she sees an action possibility and capability. You know, a 12 and under kid probably wouldn't see this opportunity. But an older player will, if they're looking and picking up the information, and if they're linking their, you know, their movements, their problem solving to the relevant information. On the other side of the net, look at this blocker here. She sees bad pass going this direction, and she's just assuming, okay, who is she going to set? Which of these players over here is ready to hit it? She's like, nobody. Okay, so she's really not thinking there's a threat to score at all. Her teammate, the middle blocker, is looking at the right thing. She's looking at all the relevant information. Okay, so she's reading the ball contact. She's looking at this action possibility. And at this point, she's now confirmed that this hitter sees the same thing I do. This ball is hittable. Okay, so she's coming in to hit that ball, and you know, obviously her teammate gets in her way there because, you know, her teammate was assuming that something else would happen rather than looking at and reading the relevant information that was going on. Okay, so that's perception action coupling. All right, thanks for hanging with me and for watching.